Hello and welcome to the second webinar dedicated to Upcycled Beauty and happy World Upcycling Day. I'm Dr. Barbara Olioso from the Green Chemist, and I'm here today to introduce this webinar and to moderate this webinar, which is about Upcycled Beauty Unpacked, claims, credibility and consumers meaning. And I'm joined here today by three fantastic panelists. We have Yuan Gao. He is the COO of Lignopure. He is a fellow chemist. He has a great technical background, and he's going to talk about lignin. Then will be the turn of Laurent Milet. He is the general manager at Cosmos AISBL, a non-profit organization with its own standard for natural and organic cosmetics. And then finally, there will be Anna Crovetto. She's the community lead at the Upcycled Beauty Company. She's a great campaigner and advocate for upcycled cosmetic ingredients. She's been in the Sustainability Zone Theatre, and I really look forward to her presentation. So the structure for today will be a series of short presentations. I will start with mine, and then there will be each speaker to provide a presentation. And at the end of that, there will be a roundtable discussion. But I do invite you to put your questions in the Q&A section for later on, because this is a great opportunity to unravel what upcycled means for the beauty industry. So I would like to start with my presentation, which is meaning and messages I see today, in relation to this very trendy claim at the Sustainability Zone and in Cosmetics Global. It's everywhere, but what does it mean and how do consumers perceive it? So just before I go into that, I would like just to give you an idea about my background. I've been a cosmetic developer for over 25 years. I've been moderating the Sustainability Zone Theatre for quite a while, and now it's a great space to see all this innovation. And as I said, upcycled ingredients are very trendy there. And I also launched a year ago the Green Chem Finder, which is an award-winning tool for formulators to find, discover, and select green chemistry ingredients for cosmetic preservation. And it does include a filter to find the upcycled ingredients. So please do check it out. It's free to use. And then I've recently launched also a podcast as well, which you can check out. So before I go into the meaning and messages of upcycled, I would like to give you some numbers and figures. This is from the Fortune Business Insights report on upcycled cosmetic ingredients. And as you can see, the numbers speak for themselves. There is an upward trajectory, and the estimate is going to double nearly in less than 10 years. And as you can see, that the majority of this market share is coming from skincare ingredients. So what are the drivers? Just briefly, I'm sure there are lots of reasons that make this trend very attractive, but one obviously is the EU CSRD. So this directive is asking companies to report on waste reduction and maximizing the use of natural resources. So that's where upcycled ingredients can fit in. And a few days ago, there was also the EU Green Week, and they were pushing this nature restoration regulation. So again, upcycled ingredients save the land and allowing it to be used for better purposes or to increase biodiversity. Obviously, it's a simple message for consumers to understand. And then there is the untapped innovation. I'm sure today we'll see some of these. When we had the sustainability zone theater, there was a very interesting also ingredient, which was an olive extract, and it is a fragrance ingredient which smells absolutely divine, and we wouldn't have had that without this trend. So I would like also to go into the consumers, what consumers think of upcycling. And I asked Richard Cope of Ecovox to send me some information, because he's a market researcher, and he sent me this slide. And so how consumers perceived upcycled food. And as you can see, it's very interesting. It varies from country to country. But the interesting insight from this slide is that there is only a 50% conversion rate. And he believes that is because there is a need for education, engagement with consumers, explaining the benefits more in order to, really push this trend, which is very popular and makes perfect sense. So if you want to know more, please contact Richard Cope. So the meaning, what does upcycled mean really? And the Upcycled Foods Association provides a framework with 5 criteria. So the first one is made from waste materials, but they define it for the food industry. So any basically waste material that would end up in food waste destinations. So they specified for that. And I think for cosmetics, we would need to expand that. And then the value added, so rather than just reusing the waste, it's about increasing the value and the benefits. And it has to be suitable for human consumption, so it has to be safe. And transparency is another very important criteria. Where does it come from? And the labeling, the transparency for consumers to know this material is from upcycled origin. So again, there is no legal definition for our industry, so how do we define it? And this is an open question. I'm not saying this is it, but we will touch on this also during the roundtable discussion, and I would like also to invite the audience to share their thoughts about what it means. So the waste diversion, so we could expand that to byproduct or side streams of from different industries, providing obviously they are from a renewable source. The performance, so they have to perform and deliver, so it could be functional or active ingredients, but also they need additional data on, especially on the safety and the purity. And I know from last year webinar, companies work very hard to provide this data to their customers. And then traceability, so a transparent supply chain is important, and the communication. And now we're going to move into examples of brands on the market that ride this trend very strongly. So Upcycled Beauty, their message, the key message is rescuing and reusing at scale. So they started with the body scrub, using waste from cafes in London and using this bike courier network. So they also aim to reduce, the carbon footprint of transport, and they have captured 450 tons of coffee grounds so far, which is an impressive number. So the brand has expanded, and now they have increased the portfolio of upcycled ingredients up to 29. Another example, so this is a German brand. They have mass distribution. They aim to be affordable. And their strapline is rather than grow twice, use everything. And when I think of Germany, I think about efficiency. So basically they say, why do we need to grow the same thing twice? Why can't we save water, land, etc. from especially the food industry, which is very wasteful. And so in this range, this brand is doing well as well. So, and my last example is Caudalie. they launched a line, which is the Premier Cru line, which contains this rosewood extract. And this rosewood extract comes from the distillation of the beautiful rosewood oil. And they source the wood used in this distillation from responsible sources, so with agroforestry management behind. But what is interesting is that they don't, when you look at the products page, they don't mention the story behind these ingredients. So I don't know why, but I think, again, this is food for thought for our panel later on, and even for you in the audience to, explain why they wouldn't talk about such, a good material. But there we go. And so thank you very much for listening. And if you want to connect with me or collaborate with me, please, do get in touch. These are my details. You can subscribe to my monthly newsletters and the LinkedIn profile and the podcast. So now we are moving on to the next speaker, when I can stop sharing my screen. How do I stop sharing my screen? I'm really sorry about that. I can't see the bottom. Let me. Oh.
Yuan, if you want to just proceed with the sharing, then we won't be.
Yeah, okay, that's it. So somebody takes over, but I would like, so can you can you unshare my screen, please? Because I can't see the bottom to stop sharing. Great, thank you very much. So now it's the turn of Yuan Gao, the CEO at Lignopure, and he's going to tell us all about lignin, a beautiful example of upcycling in the beauty industry. So over to you, Yuan. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara, and thank you for your introduction and the excellent presentation. I do believe we have some similar opinion about what is upcycled beauty. So good afternoon, everyone, and my name is Yuan Gao, and I represent Lignopure, and today I will share a practical example of upcycled beauty through one material, lignin. In beauty, sustainability claims are becoming more ambitious, but credibility depends on more than the origin of an ingredient. It also depends on whether the material is transformed into something useful, measurable, and meaningful for cosmetic applications. So in this short presentation, I will use lignobase as an example to show how an underutilized bio-based side stream can become a high-value cosmetic ingredient. And the focus is on 3 connected points: definition, validation, and credibility. And finally, how this can be translated into consumer meaning. So when we talk about upcycled beauty, I think the most important word is value. And for me, upcycling is not simply about using a byproduct. It is about taking an underutilized resource and creating something with a higher purpose, something similar, like Barbara said, something brings both functional value and sustainability value. This is why I like to describe upcycling as value creation rather than just material reuse. This distinction is very important in cosmetics. Beauty ingredients cannot only rely on a good sustainability story, they also need to make sense in a formulation, contribute to product performance, and be understandable for brands and consumers. This is very actually close to the mission of Lignopure. And at Lignopure, we focus on fully unlock the potential of lignin, which is the natural component of plant that becomes available in large quantities through the wood-based industries. So in this presentation, I use lignin as an example. And not because it is simply a side stream, but because it shows how an underused bio-based material can be transformed in something more valuable. Yes. So a brief introduction for lignin. Lignin is a natural component of plants, and together with cellulose, it is part of the structure of wood and other biomass. In the pulp and the paper industry, the main target is usually cellulose, which is used to make paper and some other similar material. During this process, lignin is separated and become a major side stream. And traditionally, this lignin has often been treated as a low-value material, for example, just used for energy recovery. But chemically and functionally, lignin has much more potential than that. This is where Lignopure comes in. And our product is lignin-based, and with lignin-based, the idea is not simply to reuse lignin. The idea is to upgrade lignin into a high-performance cosmetic ingredient. That means taking a plant-derived side stream and transforming it so that it becomes more relevant for beauty formulations. And in cosmetics, lignin-based can contribute several functions like UV protections, antioxidants, and oil absorption, and also a soft focus effect. What I want to emphasize here is that these benefits are not separate from the upcycling story. They are the reason the upcycling story becomes credible. If lignin only had a nice origin story, that would not be enough. The important point is that lignin can be transformed into something that actually brings value in cosmetic formulations. So what I want to deliver here is like lignin-based turns lignin from a paper and pulp industry side stream into a functional cosmetic ingredient, connecting plant-based origin, circular sourcing, and beauty performance. Yeah, so like what we said before, in upcycled beauty, origin is of course very important, but origin alone is also not enough. So if we want to claim that an ingredient is valuable, we need to explain why it works and how we prove it. So this is where science becomes essential. So on this slide, I use why to refer the mechanisms and how to refer to the science-based results that support those mechanisms. So using lignin as an example, the mechanism starts from the structure of lignin itself. Lignin is a complex plant-based polymer with aromatic and phenolic structures. These structures are important because they can contribute to several cosmetic relevant functions like UV protection and whatever I mentioned in the last slide. And even though I have worked with science for a long time, and I will not go very much deeper in the mechanisms here, because it will take up a lot of time. And if you have questions, you can reach out to me later and also write an email to me afterwards. So then comes the how here, how we prove these effects. This is where we need to have measurable results. For the lignin-based, this can include, for example, in vivo SPF testing, antioxidant testing, and oil absorption evaluation, and other formulation studies. Using UV protection as an example, so we have different in vivo SPF studies, and in all the studies we have proved that 1% lignin can boost 10 to 12 points SPF. So I would call this as a concrete scientific results. And the goal is not only to show that lignin has an interesting origin, but to show that the ingredient performs in a way that is relevant and valuable for cosmetic products. Yes, so after we have shown the scientific value of lignin-based, the next challenge is how this value can be recognized more broadly by the industry. So this is where credibility and consistency become more important. Today, upcycled ingredient is still interpreted in different ways by different persons, and there is not yet one fully harmonized global definition for cosmetics, and this creates uncertainty around what should qualify as upcycled. So I highlight these 3 areas where this uncertainty often appears. I'm thinking about feedstock qualification, processing requirements, and the value creation criteria. So in my view, certification should not only confirm that the material comes from a side stream. This is important, but it's the starting point. For a material like lignin, the origin is very clear, and I have presented before lignin coming from the nature and side stream from paper and pulp industry. This gives lignin a strong and traceable origin story. But this is not enough. The next step, it would be like the transformation. So with lignin-based, lignin is not simply like transferred from the industry into another, and it is developed and like transformed into a cosmetic ingredient by us. And that transformation is essential because it is what turns a byproduct into a material with higher application value. And lastly, I would say it comes with performance. The upcycled material should demonstrate what new value has been created. And in the case of lignin-based, I've mentioned several times of different cosmetic functions. Yes, so finally, in my view, for the certification, there needs to be judged by origin, transformation, performance, and proof. This is how we can avoid vague claims and make upcycled beauty more consistent, more transparent, and more trustworthy. Yes. Lastly, I would like to show something about bridging the upcycling and consumer perception. So once we have defined the credible upcycling from a technical and certification perspective, the next challenge would be the communication, because even if an ingredient is scientifically validated, the value still needs to be understood by brands and consumers. So I showed the bridge here from a circular origin to scientific upgrade to consumer benefit and finally to beauty innovations. This is very important because upcycling only becomes meaningful in the market when the story is clear, trustworthy, and connect to product performance. So, but for lignin, the origin story is strong, but I think we need to be careful. I mean, also like with the other ingredients, to be careful when we communicate with the clients and the consumers. So if we only say like made from waste or from a byproduct, the message can be misunderstood. Some consumers may associate that with lower quality, even though scientifically that is not the case. So for using lignin as an example, I would reframe the story differently. So the stronger message would be like from plant-based origin through circular sourcing, upgraded by science, and into cosmetic performance. So this creates a much more credible, positive narrative. Yes. So overall, I would like to summarize and bring the discussion back to 4 simple points: define, validate, standardize, and communicate. So first of all, design. For me, upcycling should mean value creation, and through functional upgrade, it should not be used only as the label for something that comes from a side stream. Should be also creating some more value in the applications. And secondly, validate. Credibility requires measurable performance and impact. So in the case of lignin-based, this means showing that lignin is not only circular in origin, but also functional in cosmetics. Third, standardized. Certification should include origin, transformation, and proof. Origin tells us where the material comes from. Transformation tells us what has been done to create higher value. Proof shows that the claim is supported by data and consistency. Lastly, consumer trust circularity when performance is clear. So I don't think I have to explain more about this sentence. And so overall, I would like to summarize this like lignin-based illustrates scalable, credible, and upcycled beauty in practice because it connects circular origin, scientific validation, and cosmetic performance. Thank you for your listening. And if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me or Marvin, my colleague, via email or ask questions afterwards.
Thank you very much, Yuan. It was a very interesting presentation, and great to see we are aligned on this meaning of upcycling. And it's also a great introduction to the next presentation with Laurent Milet. He is going into the meaning of upcycled, what it means beyond the buzz, making upcycled a claim worth trusting. Laurent, over to you.
Thank you very much, Barbara, and thank you all for having me here. I try not to repeat the key principles that you already shared with us, Barbara. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. So I will, if anything happens technically, you will tell me. Okay, you can see the screen, and you can see the screen going on. Can the change?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, perfect. So everyone, so in the next 10 minutes, I want to make one simple point. Upcycled is one of the best words in beauty right now. Okay, we all know that. This is why we're here today. But the word only matters if you can back it up. This is what we say at Cosmos. This is what we believe in. I sit on the standard side, not the brand side. So I'll talk about what makes an upcycled claim something a buyer, and even better, a consumer can actually trust. That's the second slide. Everybody can see it? All right, perfect. So upcycling, just like you said, Barbara, upcycling takes something that would have been thrown away and gives it a second higher value life. Okay, this is what it is about. This is a genuinely good story, and shoppers love it. We know that. The problem is that nobody has agreed on what the word actually means. So the same word can sit on two products that has nothing alike. Okay, just like you said. And even better, two words people mix up are recycling, which usually means breaking something down and remaking it, like melting old plastic into new plastic, and upcycling, which means taking a leftover, just like you said, and using it with little or no change in something worth more than the original. When you said about olive oil, I think, olive leaves, Barbara, this is exactly the point. And instead of composting olive leaves as leftover, instead of composting them, we can put antioxidants out of the olive leaf and put the extracts into a face cream. You replace olive leaves with grapes, and that's pretty much the story of Caudalie that you say about, okay, 25 years ago or 30 years ago. The leftover, I mean the leaf, in my example, becomes a higher value ingredient. That is upcycling. But because there is no legal or standard definition of upcycled, one brand may use a true food industry leftover, while another simply relabels a cheap filler as upcycled. Same word, but very, very different honesty. This is the main trap you can see. But to some point, it's going to change. There is this new EU law that, Barbara, you talked about, which means until now, we have vague green words which could travel on a packaging with nothing behind them. That is supposed to end soon with this new EU directive called 2024/825. The official name, I think, is Empowering Consumers for the Green Transition, but nicknamed as EmpCo. Okay. It was adopted on the 28th of February 24 and will start to apply across the EU from 27 September 26. That's the official date. Up to now, we have only 9 countries in the EU which transposition the directive into their national law. So most of the country will be a bit late. Why is that? Because it affects many categories of products in ways that even the EU Commission have no idea about the consequences. Anyway, the idea is what? The idea is that it will ban vague green words less like eco-friendly, green, climate neutral, biodegradable. We know how cosmetic formulators and cosmetic marketers can be creative. Okay, this is limitless. Okay, but now from now on, unless you can show real, proven, top-level environmental performance, you just cannot say anything else. Okay, a cream that just says eco-friendly with no proof will no longer be allowed. So a sustainability label can only be used if it sits on a certification scheme whose compliance is checked by an independent outside party. Okay, so Yuan, you are on the right side. Okay, good for you. But another company, and we have plenty of them, doing greenwashing of any kind, okay? They are in the position of making the choice, do I have to go on with the claim I use, or do I have to be certified by someone? I mean, to choose a certification, wherever that is, okay? For this organization of guideline, a standard which is checked by an independent outside party, this is exactly how Cosmos already works. So the law pushes the market toward credible certification and not away from it. This is good for certification, but at the end of the day, it's good for the market, and it's good for the companies and the people who are doing it properly now, just like one. There are, I mean, it's when I say so, very often about Cosmos, it's the same thing about any certification. You don't have to be a scientist to test an upcycled claim. You don't have to be a scientist to run a certification. You just have to follow the damn rules and to start from the top of the certification standard until the end of it. And that's it. You don't have to question it, to reimagine everything. That's quite easy. You just, for upcycling, you just need to answer 3 questions. What is it really? Where does it come from? And who checked it? If a claim can answer all 3, it's solid. If it stumbles on any of them, you've got to be careful. So they got to take the 3 questions one by one. What it really is, what exactly is being upcycled? Why does it count as a leftover? You talked about the coffee, Barbara, okay? Coffee grounds from a coffee chain are a real leftover. Surplus we made on purpose is not an upcycled material. Where it comes from? Can you follow the trail on paper from the source material to the finished ingredient? Invoices and batch records showing the coffee grounds becoming an oil and that oil going into the cream. That is solid. And finally, who checked it? Did an independent certification body verify it? Or is it the brand granting its own homework? Sometimes for good reason. I remember a brand which said very candidly that, okay, I wish I am certified by Cosmos and my formula is fantastic, but I can't because I'm a small company. Okay, nice. We have nothing but empathy for this kind of, state of mind. But at the end of the day, this is completely misleading because because you cannot prove it. Okay. So the most important thing to think about is why is it what does certification provide to a brand? That's Cosmos certified upcycled, for instance, when we talk about upcycling as today. The honest answer for a certification like Cosmos is we don't hand out an upcycle badge, okay? We are more than that in a way that we are all-in-one kind of certification. We look at the ingredient itself, what it is, where it comes from, how it's made, and whether the whole story can be traced. So an upcycled ingredient goes through the very same checks as any other, upcycled or not upcycled, okay? The word has to earn its place. We sort out every ingredient into one of 5 buckets, and each bucket has its own rules: water, minerals, physically processed plant, animal, microbe ingredients, chemically processed plant, animal, microbe ingredients, and other ingredients. So an upcycled olive leaf extract isn't judged on its label. It is judged on which bucket it falls in, where it comes from, how it was made, and whether you can trace it. No extra outer box, okay, this is reduce. A refillable bottle, this is reuse. FSC certified card, this is renewable, and at least 20% recycled plastic. This is recycle. So that's perfect. And you just need to have a certain part of it to your marketing mix, and it's worth it. So here is the whole journey on one line. You start with the leftover. You define exactly what it is. You trace it to end on paper. An independent body checks it. And only then do you have a claim a buyer can trust. Every step can be shown and checked. That's what turns a buzzword into a claim that holds. So this is what I wanted to finish with. When every claim has to be proven, credibility stops being a cost and becomes a competitive edge. I've got many retailers to show up at Cosmos and to say, we do count on Cosmos, even retailers from the US. Remember in the US, on the US market, a good advice on Amazon was pretty much everything you needed to sell a product in the US, but not today. Today, even big retailers such as Target or anyone like big ones like that, they do believe that Cosmos or any solid certification just like Cosmos is the most certain way of being protected against any bad press, okay, which is the most important for a retailer, and empty shelves, obviously. The brands that can show their upcycle story will own it. The ones that can't will lose the word and the trust that came with it. Okay, this is something that you need to be absolutely solid with. This is what I wanted to share with you today, and hopefully you will have some question maybe, and I will be happy to answer them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laurent, for sharing the insights from a certification body point of view, and and all the rigor that has to go into this upcycled claim. It's now the turn of Anna Crovetto. She's going to talk to us about redefining waste through upcycled placement. Over to you, Anna.
Fantastic. Thank you, Barbara. So I'm Anna, I'm from the Upcycled Beauty Company, and I'm going to start by giving you a short introduction to who we are and what we do. So we're B Corp certified raw material manufacturer from the UK, and our foundation is really a vision that one day every beauty and personal care product will be made from upcycled materials. We need to create a circular cosmetic economy. And you may think we sound a little bit crazy that this is not possible. But if we think about the history of personal care, some of the legacy ingredients that have been used for decades, maybe some even hundreds of years, we have things like tallow, lanolin. You also have petrochemicals like mineral oil and petrolatum jelly. These are all byproducts from other industries, and they've been used in personal care for a long time. So I think I have a little bit of a different point of view with regards to upcycling claims, because we hope that in the future, no one needs to make an upcycled claim, because that circular design and material sourcing will be the baseline of personal care production. And this is the future that I hope the EU directive is pushing us towards as well. So this is a big mission, and we know we can't do it alone. So we want to help inform, inspire, and enable you as the personal care industry to take action and increase the percentage of upcycled, circular, and zero waste ingredients in your formulations. I'm going to change track a little bit because I want to highlight to you 5 top trending ingredients from 2025. This data comes from Spate, a US company. They use a proprietary AI model analysis that captures billions of signals across Google search, TikTok, and Instagram, and they use this data to forecast trends in the next 12 months. So this was data that was released at the beginning of 2026 or the end of 2025, looking at signals on US, Google, TikTok, and Instagram. You can see the period here from 2024 September to August 2025 versus the same period a year before. The reason I'm highlighting these ingredients is I think it's really interesting. These are trending online. They're trending because of the association with health, wellness, protein, cultural relevance, Korean beauty, J-beauty, glass skin, all of these things. What no one is talking about is the fact that perhaps beyond just trending ingredients, these could come from trending waste side streams. So we've got our legacy products, things like collagen and tallow that we know for decades have been used as byproducts of other industries, especially coming from food. You have things like curcumin and rice, could come again from byproducts of food, broken rice, not quality enough to be sold into food supply chains, curcumin, an active component in turmeric, perhaps this could be extracted from the root after it's been pressed for juice. And then something much more high-tech, contemporary modern, we've got PDRN. This is a DNA-based active taken from salmon sperm, which I don't know about you, I'm not sure the last time I ate salmon testes. It's most certainly a byproduct of the food industry, salmon farming, whether that's wild caught salmon or industrial farming, in fact. So we have potential waste origins, but like we've seen from our other speakers today, it's not enough to come from a waste side stream or byproduct, because especially with these legacy ingredients like tallow and collagen, is that really upcycling, or is that just a new kind of greenwashing? So actually we posed this question to the industry, to R&D specialists like yourself through a series of webinars in 2025. And I just want to show you one of the results that we got from that poll. We asked an audience from France, Spain, and Switzerland, do you think animal-derived byproducts like collagen and tallow should be considered upcycled? You can see the results here. And interestingly enough, it was only 38% of respondents from Switzerland who felt that, yeah, sure, they can be upcycled by default. Conversely, 65%, 44%, and 50% of respondents from France, Spain, and Switzerland, respectively, said only with that supply chain validation as being both traceable and ethical. So this is supporting what we have been discussing today, that we need more than just something coming from a byproduct. We have to verify that supply chain. And especially when it comes to animal-derived ingredients, there's that question of ethics involved as well. So we've already heard today that there's no legal definition in personal care for upcycled ingredients or upcycled finished products. But as Barbara highlighted earlier, there is a standard and a definition used in food. So we are actually members of the Upcycled Food Association, and we upcycle certify our cosmetic ingredients that come from food side streams. This is a fantastic standard because actually we are audited, and like was highlighted earlier, we have to provide proof that we have taken waste from a certain place. We have to prove how much we've taken, where it would have gone otherwise, and that we have demonstrated a positive planet impact helping to tackle climate change and greenhouse gas emissions. So this is a great standard for food. Because as we've seen already from Lignopure here today, in personal care, we can create ingredients from many different industries and side streams, not just food. So although this is a great standard to be independently verified and audited, it doesn't fit for personal care, because we can take side streams from forestry, from paper, from all sorts of different industries. So here at the Upcycled Beauty Company, we started to develop a standard for upcycled ingredients in personal care. Now, we are not experts. We do not have the resources or expertise of Cosmos, but we started and we devised our own definition just to help ourselves have a target for our own production and to also think about sharing that with the industry, for example. So this is what we came up with so far. It's a working definition. We're open to critique. So an upcycled ingredient is derived from a byproduct from another process or industry. The ingredient should not be the primary reason for which the feedstock was produced and grown, and it must demonstrate a net positive impact on the planet. So it has to be more than just a byproduct. It has to have data to show that it's having a positive impact, or perhaps reducing a negative impact in a different industry. So by definition, perhaps collagen and tallow and these legacy ingredients, could by default be upcycled because it's a byproduct. But by our definition, those manufacturers would have to prove the positive planet impact. It's not enough to say that it's upcycled. And I think another reason that we maybe haven't touched on today, why independent verification, auditing, definitions is so important. I mean, each company approaches sustainability differently. Each person will approach it differently. Even different countries might approach it differently. And if we do not have a common language or understanding or data points, how can we compare and show progress? We need to be speaking the same language to be help convert the personal care industry from linear to circular. And so this is really important, I think. So our driver at the Upcycled Beauty Company, our version of sustainability is really coming down to this simple fact. Up to 40% of the world's food is never eaten. It is lost in the supply chain. And according to Project Drawdown, which is the world's leading resource for climate solutions, reducing food waste is one of the key factors to mitigate the climate crisis. So food is industrial. Supermarket system is industrial. This is huge business. This is huge industry. And this is one of the main factors contributing to the climate crisis. We've got 1 billion people going without food, yet 40% of what is grown is simply lost. So byproduct supply chains for use in personal care, when we're doing new product development, have to have certain traits. The strongest supply chains show potential, share the same potential characteristics, So we're looking at big industries for big impact, but at the same time, they allow scale, they allow continuity, they provide chemical relevance, and also market relevance. And that's why food is so interesting, and paper is also so interesting, because these are high throughput industries, they're consistent, and they operate at industrial scale. They're already established, they're already reliable. And for us, this is much more important than having a nice seasonal story or a niche botanical that just has market relevance, but perhaps doesn't have the other characteristics. And so within a circular economy, again, kind of repeating what's already been said today, but I think it's so important. It's not about the resource itself or where it's come from. It's really how it's positioned. How has it been transformed? What does it do? And again, I think for us, the most important thing is that byproducts may be waste until they're used. But once they're upcycled and used in personal care, they become strategically important assets. And actually, we don't need to make that claim. We don't need to claim upcycled. This should be the baseline of raw material production. And really, the most successful upcycled ingredients are going to combine clear functionality, and performance. As you saw from those top 5 trending ingredients, they're popular because they perform, because people are talking about glass skin, collagen production, reducing redness. They're not popular because they could come from upcycled sources. But also, I think the whole point of today's presentation is to really focus on the fact that we need ethical, traceable, and validated supply chains. We need to go beyond making a soft claim and prove that these ingredients are coming from where we say they are coming. And that's why third-party auditing is so important. And really, just to round off my little presentation here, I love to finish with the quotes because I think this just perfectly summarizes what we are trying to convey, that waste is simply a resource in the wrong place. So if you're interested in this kind of information, you want to talk about circularity or learn more from our industry and beyond, then I can invite you to join the Upcycled Beauty community on LinkedIn, because that's where we will share lots of information, inspiring and informative stories, case studies, regulations and data that supports hopefully you on your circular cosmetic journey.
Well, thank you very much, Anna, for the insightful presentation and sharing your working definition of upcycled for the beauty industry. I think it's very interesting, and I think it's got lots of potential. So I would like really to ask a question about how do we bridge the data, or how do we communicate all these beautiful data that suppliers provide to validate and give credibility to ingredients without blinding consumers with science, or without oversimplifying the message, so that then we are in conflict with the EmpCo directive that Laurent spoke about. How do we sort of reconcile these two extremes of oversimplifying and blinding with science to communicate upcycled ingredients benefits? I don't know, Anna, maybe, or Laurent?
Yes, it's true that validated by products doesn't work anymore. It's borrowing to a shopper. The vague variation is not allowed anymore, just like you said, but with the EmpCo. And congratulations, Anna, for joining the certification world. That's fantastic what you are doing. I appreciate a lot. And this is what I say to many brands. They say you've got to pick the certification that is the most meaningful to you, whatever it is. Cosmos gives you like an all-in-one proof for a retailer for many things, okay, much beyond the ingredient. But if your story is about upcycling, you can find a one which is perfect for you. That's the most important. We've got to make it human. We don't say validate side stream. We got to say where the product comes from. Made from the olive leaves left over after pressing. That is clear, that is true, and you can trace it, and shopper gets it right away. The mark sits behind that one line. It is the proof. So the short story makes people want it. And that is really meaningful. This is what we do believe at Cosmos. We provide the certification for people looking for this kind of proof. But if you want to choose another one, that's perfectly fine. The most important is that you've got to find the one which is consistent with who they are.
Yeah, thank you, Laurent. Anna, do you have anything to add on that?
Well, I think the claim itself will fade away. I think claims like this are going to be less in the future. And we can see from the data that online, where a lot of cosmetic products are sold, people are not looking for necessarily natural or upcycled or sustainability claims. They're looking for performance. So it's all about framing. So we're not talking about fruit waste. We're talking about a natural upcycled ingredient that helps reduce skin redness. And it's the skin redness, it's the hook for the customer. I think upcycling here, this to a certain extent is more important B2B. It's more important us as the raw material manufacturers to you, the cosmetic brands. The communication to the customer is all going to be about your brand story and performance. But again, I think our economy cannot be linear. We're proven this, it doesn't work. The EU is driving circularity because we need to build a more resilient future. So, you know, our company's called the Upcycled Beauty Company, but eventually that claim is going to be redundant because we have to produce in a circular way, full stop. It doesn't matter if it's synthetic or natural, it's going to have circular design behind it. So I think always, first and foremost, for cosmetic consumers, it's the efficacy claim. What do you do? I think that's it.
Yes, this is in line with what Richard Cope was also saying, that basically there is this me economy. He talks about this me economy, and it's all about the benefits to consumers. And so, you know, these key benefits you were talking about. But I think there is also room for other benefits, like environmental benefits, maybe, and especially if it's local, you know, to the consumers, you know, what kind of benefits the surrounding area gets as a result of this, you know, repurposing of waste. And talking about waste, so waste is waste, but it has a negative perception. And when it comes to cosmetics, it's all about perception, it's all about pampering, luxury. And so this could have a negative connotation. So how can you overcome this sort of connotation, you know, the connection between upcycling and waste, and, you know, make it into something valuable?
Yeah, I think I can start with this question.
Yes.
So I think this is a very important point, and I also have mentioned a bit in my presentation. I think actually the word waste is actually not the right starting point when you have the consumer communication. So for me, the stronger frame would be like not made from waste, made from byproduct, but valuable natural material that was previously underutilized. So in the case of lignin, we are talking about the sophisticated plant polymer. In nature, lignin gives plant wood structure and protection. In industry, it's a side stream from the paper and pulp industry. So the opportunity is not to make something cheap from the waste. The opportunity is to recognize the hidden value of natural ingredient that already exists. So it's not like we are lying, we are hiding some the origin. It's like just to reveal how it should look like in front of the consumers.
Yeah, no, this is very interesting, and it links to what Anna was saying. It's about really developing a dictionary or a language and reframing waste, because waste is becoming a valuable resource for many industries, right? And talking about the meaning of, let's say, byproducts, right? You gave a beautiful presentation, Yuan, about the lignin and, you know, all the data you have behind. But I was wondering, how can you justify it's more valuable to use lignin for cosmetic applications rather than, I don't know, burning the wood for heat, or, you know, using it for, you know, different applications? So how do you see, you know, the added value of lignin for cosmetic applications, you know, versus burning the wood, for example, the wood waste?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. So this question actually goes to the heart of the upcycling. I mean, I do agree that using lignin for energy recovery is useful, but it's generally a lower value use of a complex natural material. Lignin is not just biomass; it has a chemical structure that gives it functionality, and that functionality is strongly relevant in not only cosmetics, but also in other applications, I mean, in terms of lignin. So the value of putting lignin into cosmetics is that we move from a caloric value to functional value, and also from single-use value to a long-term value. So for me, this is definitely a genuine step up, because the material is not only reused, it is like functionally upgraded. this also matches like my definition of upcycled beauty in my presentation.
Yes. No, it's really interesting. I think because of your SPF boosting properties, it can also reduce the use of UV filters. So it has other, positive benefits. And obviously, even, if it's not burnt, then probably the greenhouse emissions could be even lower than using it for heat recovery. So, and then the last question, because we're running out of time. So how often does a material marketed as upcycled actually fail that test once you trace it? And if the validation isn't there, is the upcycling just a story? Who would like to take that?
Okay, this is the one I really care about most, actually. According to what I know, the honest answer is there is no official score. There is no agreed meaning of upcycled, even if I totally appreciate Anna's meaning, a definition of upcycled. But for me, there is no central list, so no one can give you a clean fail rate, and that gap is the problem. Here is the simple test. Can you trace the material back to a real leftover on paper? That is the most important question. If not, you cannot know it is an upcycled material. So when the proof is missing, it is not upcycled, you can prove. That's pretty much the point. It is just a story. Sometimes it is even true, but nobody wrote it down. Okay, you never know. Sometimes with certification process, you just discover something about your products that you have no idea about. From the outside, true but not proven, or not true look the same. Okay, that is why the world is in danger. And I really expect Anna's initiative to provide more values to this category. So far, we said that tracing a material is what turns a story into a fact. This is what we believe in at Cosmos. No trail, no claim, in short. Okay, and that's very much what we say.
Thank you, Laurent. But I think that's why it's important to work with companies such the Upcycled beauty company Lignopure, who have traceability, that they've done the hard work, and so that they don't have to worry about greenwashing. But it is important, I think, to select, to be aware of the suppliers you work with, and maybe one day Cosmos will come up with a new standard for upcycled cosmetic ingredients. Who knows? But anyway, I would like to thank all the panelists and all of you attending this webinar. I hope you found it useful. I hope to see you also next year at the Sustainability Zone to get more of these, the latest of sustainable innovation. And please do get in touch with Anna and Yuan to discover more about their raw materials, and obviously Laurent to know more about the Cosmos standards. All right, but thank you very much for listening, and have a lovely day. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.